What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Yesterday, we did have that Capcom spotlight that showed a bunch of new information on games they've already announced, as well as one big surprise at the end that got everyone excited. We'll go over that here today. Also, we are going to be talking about some new information when it comes to the GameCube, as some lost footage was found online that seems to point to a fairly interesting peripheral that Nintendo was maybe working to introduce. And we'll also be talking about some of the sales in Japan for the PlayStation, as it looks like the PS5 has reached a pretty big milestone. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button, helps out a ton. And if new here to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And we're going to start today with RoboCop. We know that there is a game in development and it's supposed to be coming out this year. Well, we did get a new trailer as well as a release window for it, which you can see some of the trailer here. This is for RoboCop Rogue City. It is coming out for all platforms other than the Switch, which is weird because I thought it had mentioned the Switch with the initial reveal trailer last year, but no, not the case now, unfortunately. PC, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S. And as I'm looking at the trailer, it does look rough around the edges. I mean, it coming out now in September of 2023 means we're about 6 months out. So I guess things can change as we work towards its eventual release date. And as we've seen, it can just be delayed. Games are getting delayed all over the place. But hey, you know what? It does look like one of the best RoboCop games that we've seen. So here's hoping they continue working on this a bit more as they get closer to September. Just a few minor things here and there. And honestly, as RoboCop is walking around, you of course get the sound of him basically stomping around. And while it was fun in the first couple of seconds of the trailer, it definitely became very noticeable and distracting as they went along. That and some of the janky gunplay and stuff. Certainly some things to work on. Also, Bayonetta Origins is out next week, and while I'm not necessarily as excited for it as I'm sure others are, we do have a demo now, and you can see that posted up here. This was from Nintendo of Europe, saying you start your Bayonetta Origins and the Lost Demon story today. Download the free demo, and you play the first 2 chapters and carry your progress to the full game. Now, in Bayonetta 3, there was basically a demo kind of already for this, but if you're someone who maybe, I don't know, missed that or something, you can jump into the demo here. And the nice part is you're basically getting to start up the game, try it out, and then if you like it, you can buy it and just transfer your save data over. Those, I think, are the best kind of demos. Like, you have demos where you get a reward for playing it in the full game. I just like the idea of getting to start the game early, see what you think of it, and then move on to buy it. That's hopefully a trend that just continues along. Makes sense for Bayonetta Origins, as I'm sure there's people who are not 100% sure if they want to pay full price for this game. Well, you can try it out and see what you think. Oh, and with the latest wave for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and like their booster course pass, of course, Birdo was added into the mix, a new character, which got people pretty excited because like, oh, I thought we were just getting courses. We're also getting new characters, which Birdo hadn't been a part of Mario Kart since, I believe, Double Dash on the GameCube. Well, after this was updated, check this out. This is a screenshot posted up by Oatmeal Dome. You should be able to see this yourselves on your copy. 5 more characters appear to be prepared and will be added in future waves, which we don't have many more waves left. I mean, we have through the rest of this year, and there's 5 different slots. So that's exciting stuff. I am curious where they're going to pull characters from. Will they be pulling more characters from just outside of kind of the Mario universe? Like you have Inklings or Link in there. I mean, it'd be kind of cool if they went around and grabbed Captain Falcon or something, something like that. So again, just more stuff to look forward to here with the downloadable content being added to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. That really just makes this I mean, obviously it already is the biggest Mario Kart ever, but how much further do you think Nintendo wants to take this? Could we actually something following up this booster course pass? I guess we'll find out at the end of this year. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with that Capcom spotlight that aired yesterday. It was about 25 minutes or so, and for the most part, we already knew what we were going to see there, and Capcom basically stuck to the book. Nothing too surprising necessarily, except for one piece at the end that was kind of spoiled a bit earlier in the day. Anyway, let's start from the top with Mega Man Battle Network Legacy Collection. They've shown this multiple times. It, of course, is coming out next month, April 14th. Had a bit more information to share here, which includes all 499 patch cards. These were originally only available in Japan as physical cards, but they will be added into the mix here from Battle Network 4 and on. Buster Max mode, that sounds like it's more or less an easy mode as it multiplies your buster damage by like 100 times. So according to them, it's just a way to play through it easily and see the story if you'd like. 1,000 illustrations, 188 music tracks to check out there. And you can, of course, trade battle chips and just battle other people online. So a lot of exciting stuff there for Battle Network fans. Certainly a pretty serious outing here for a legacy collection from Capcom. Not phoning this one in. Then we had Street Fighter 6 shown. That, of course, coming out June 2nd. They talked about the World Tour, which is like the single player mode, Battle Hub, which is the online multiplayer. They said it's going to kind of mimic an arcade setting. So like back in the day, for anyone younger, we used to go to arcades to play these fighting games, but a new commentator is added into the mix. 8 total commentators here overall. And I mean, the game just looks really, really good. Again, I'm not into fighting games like that, but even I'm looking at this saying, you know, maybe I should give it a shot when it releases. Even if I lose a lot, it looks like it'll be a lot of fun. They very briefly mentioned something called Capcom Town. I'm not sure what this is, but maybe it'll be worth looking into. A digital theme park? They say there's like a preview site up right now, and it's launching June 12th. So again, I'm not 100% sure on what that is, and they seriously spent maybe 30 seconds on this. It was very quick, so we'll see about that one. Exoprimal. It's kind of like Anthem and Warframe mixed with Dino Crisis. It does require, I noticed this is some text they throw up there really fast, continuous internet connection. So it's going to be an always online game. A battle pass was shown off as well. Surprise, surprise. It is going to Game Pass day one, however. So at the very least, you can just kind of try it out if you have Game Pass, download it, see what you think. They did give us the release date, July 14th, and there will be an open beta period starting next week, March 17th. From there, they did talk about Ghost Trick Phantom Detective. That has a release date now of June 30th, so not too much longer. And you know what? I was looking at this, and I had not played this previously. I think it was on iOS and DS and all this. I hadn't played it. This looks incredibly unique. They said you go back in time 4 minutes for a person's death and attempting to save them, all of which playing into the main character's story and their own death. But high-resolution graphics, updated user interface, which they kind of have to, considering it was on, a dual screen display with the DS, and even on iOS, you still kind of had more of a touch user interface. But I'm curious in this one, and I think I will check that one out again, just because it is such a unique concept there and how it's all put together. Monster Hunter Rise, this mostly talked about Sunbreak. That is heading to all platforms April 28th. And then the big one here, okay? Resident Evil. They mentioned Resident Evil Death Island at summer 2023, so you can check that out. But everyone was waiting for the appearance with Resident Evil 4 Remake. We already know it's coming out March 24th. We've already seen a lot about it, but we were all going into this expecting a demo of some kind because it did leak out a bit early, all right? And they did not disappoint. The Chainsaw demo, it's out right now across all the different platforms, PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4, Xbox Series, and Steam. So you can pick whatever platform you want, go ahead and try it out. No time limit. You play it as many times as you want. They say it takes place in the beginning of the game. I'm actually downloading it right now, so I will be checking this thing out immediately after I'm done recording here, and really looking forward to this one. We figured we were going to get a demo because we've had demos for the other Resident Evil remakes, but this is nice. It's not a one-shot demo, nothing like that. You can just play it as much as you want and get really excited for the game because for what I'm seeing here, I mean, this looks incredible. Every time they've shown it, it looks better and better. But I do want to warn people out there, as images are starting to spread online, that Resident Evil 4 Remake copies of the game are just kind of appearing in the wild right now. And as we've seen in the past, people like to spoil stuff. And while I know it's Resident Evil 4, like we already know this game very, very well. It's been around for a long time, graced many platforms. This is a remake. And as we've been seeing things like how characters look later on in the game, different events, and there's a lot of stuff that I would like to experience seemingly for the first time all over again and not necessarily have it spoiled online for someone who gets an early copy and just decides to stream the entire game or post images or video files on Twitter, and you just kind of see it when you're scrolling through. So that is your one warning. Be careful out there when it comes to Resident Evil 4 Remake spoilers, because while it hasn't necessarily leaked online to the point where people are downloading it and playing it, it does appear that it's broken or it's about to break street date, and then who knows what could happen when it comes to spoilers and leaks and all this. But I thought the spotlight was fine. It was exactly what we were expecting, basically across the board, them just telling us about games that we already know and that are coming up here pretty soon. And Resident Evil 4 Remake, I'm just ready to get my hands on that game. Exciting stuff as we work towards the end of March. Next up, let's talk about some new information, even lost footage that was shared online around a GameCube peripheral that Nintendo seemingly was playing around with, and with a twist that showed up later on in the 3DS. Well, take a look at this. This posted up over on Eurogamer, where they say GameCube screen prototype footage resurfaces 21 years after its reveal. And get this, it even secretly had 3D capabilities. Yeah, very similar, in fact, with the concept they explained to the 3DS. Now, this footage was from E3 2002. On YouTube, Adam Dory has uploaded footage from the reveal where you had a pretty good shot of the GameCube playing a game on this fairly small screen, but I mean, that's how it was back in the day. If you remember those screens that attached to your GameCube, your PS1, your PS2 or Xbox, they weren't massive screens. This one, in fact, I believe is a 5-inch screen that has that 4:3 aspect ratio, but it was RGB and it shot for, I think, 240p or something, which is, what we expected back then. But the thing that was very interesting, one, this is from Nintendo, so they were looking for kind of that higher quality feel as opposed to, I don't know, the Mad Cats of the world, if you remember in the early 2000s. But they had discussed the idea of utilizing the screen for certain games. Specifically, think of the Phantasy Star Card Battle Revolution. Remember the game where you would use kind of like these cards while you were playing Phantasy Star? That was a title that, according to Iwata, they had worked with Yuji Naka to create the idea of having two GameCubes, two different screens, so you can't see each other's hands and play across the table from each other by using a broadband adapter that's connected through Ethernet. But check this one out. This was during an Iwata-ass interview when they were sort of talking about that LCD. He says, "We tried fitting the Nintendo GameCube with a small, roughly 4-inch LCD that allowed you to enjoy Luigi's Mansion in glasses-free 3D. We showed that LCD as a reference exhibit at the 2002 E3, which lines up perfectly with the footage that is now online, but kept the 3D aspect a secret." I like that, though. He did go on further to explain why it wasn't a thing, or at least really got out of their concept phase and R&D, saying couldn't get past the problem of how to sell it. There was even talks that it could turn out to be more expensive than the console itself, which isn't hard to believe considering this would have been back, 2002, but they would have been creating and trying to price this thing out probably a year or two before that, as they're, of course, making things well ahead of actually showing it to the public. But 10 years later, it inevitably did make its way to one of their systems in the 3DS. It's just really impressive to consider how far in advance they work on this stuff and how far in advance they come up with these concepts. And the idea of getting a 3D capable screen where you don't need glasses for your GameCube and playing something like Luigi's Mansion, that would have been mind-blowing in, we'll say 2003, if this was kind of just being shown behind glass at E3 2002. But I would have certainly begged my parents for that one, and who knows, maybe now we'd be checking it out in a tech wave or something, and that would have been really cool to see. But just one of those things that got left on the R&D floor, and it does also make you wonder, what's Nintendo working on now that maybe they recount in an interview 10 or 15 years from now that does eventually make it to market? And in our last bit of news, let's talk about the Famitsu sales charts. This, of course, tracks video game sales week to week in Japan, and the PS5 did hit a pretty big milestone when it comes to the PlayStation family of systems and the sales in Japan. But let's start with the top 10 when it comes to software, starting with Kirby's Return to Dreamland, still sticking it out in that top spot, 62,500 581. Kirby is actually on a roll right now. Obviously, some of the releases like Forgotten Land, but now just seeing this Wii remake showing up now at 250,000 sold just in Japan alone physically. It's impressive stuff. Wolong Fallen Dynasty on the PS5, 30,132. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet still sticking in there at number 3. And then Wolong Fallen Dynasty once again on the PS4. So the two of them combined, not quite to 50,000 overall sold. But again, there is the digital side of things that I'm sure for the ratio is almost 50-50 when it comes to the PlayStation brand. Rune Factory 3 Special Edition debuted with 16,627 on the Switch. Then we have Splatoon 3, Octopath Traveler 2, which is just not having a great time right now, down 74% from its opening week there. Hogwarts Legacy, they're at 8, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe at 9, and then, Metroid Prime Remastered. Of course, these being the physical copies that launched after the digital version Shadow Drop, 7,960 copies. Moving over to the hardware, the PS5 was at the top, 78,412 systems. This does push the PS5 above that 3 million mark, which according to David Gibson says that's in 121 weeks, surpassing the PS3's 125 weeks and the PS4's 131 weeks. So it is actually tracking above both the PS3 and the PS4 in Japan. So it seems like Sony has recovered very well in Japan overall with the PS5, whereas it started out pretty slow due to a lot of the shortages. Then we have the Switch there right below that, 66,525. And we have the PS4 still doing better than you would expect, 1,655. This Xbox Series continuing to struggle there in Japan, 848 system. And then once again, the 3DS has somehow sold 66 systems. Must be a lot of these 3DSs in the back room. So the PS5 continuing to roll along. I think it's like 6 weeks in a row where it's topped the hardware sales charts. The only thing that's odd is that the software doesn't reflect it as well. And that does make me think that there are a lot of people who are just buying digitally on the PlayStation in Japan, as well as most places in the world, as we do see that push towards the all digital future. But as we are seeing the PS5 continue to build in Japan, and we are working towards Final Fantasy 16, seems like as we go through the year, it will just continue to build for PlayStation overall there. So, it seems like while they had a slow start to the generation, really picking things up as they head through the first half of 2023 into that inevitable massive release of Final Fantasy 16. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're gonna take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday. We're asking, do you like 2D Metroid or 3D Metroid games more? I had to put it out there. I just wanted to see 2D Metroid, though, getting 61% of the vote, and then 3D Metroid getting 39% of the vote. It's tough because the 2D Metroid games, you see Metroid Fusion drop on the Nintendo Switch Online. It is a really good game. And I look at that and I say, wow, there's been just great games in that 2D Metroid kind of genre. And then you look at 3D Metroid, and Metroid Prime is there. Awesome game. 2 and 3, also very good games. But you have like Federation Force and not exactly the greatest outing for them there. Even Other M, a lot of controversy around that one, whereas on the 2D side, it's just been high quality, good release after high quality, good release. So I get it with the 2D Metroid stuff, but still, for me, Metroid Prime, though, like the 3D Metroid, I still kind of prefer that, but you can't really argue either way. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Croc saying the thing that with COD is that if they made a Switch version, they'd have to somehow figure out how to make a game that could fit within a console with 32 gigabytes internal storage, 64 for OLED, as COD struggles to fit on consoles with hundreds of gigabytes of storage. To be honest, I don't know how COD is bloated to such an absurd degree, but I've long held the belief that Activision could make COD run on anything with substantially less storage space. They just choose not to for some reason. So the situation here you're mentioning with the Switch at 32 gigabytes, really at 26 or 27 gigabytes, somewhere in there, after the OS portion and reserves are all taken up. That has actually been a problem technically since really 2017, because there were games then in that first year that couldn't fit on the Switch. Dragon Quest Heroes 1 and 2 was like 31.5 gigabytes. It couldn't fit on the base Switch storage. You need an SD card. I believe even with like some of the games like NBA, you need an SD card because it eclipses the internal storage on the Switch. That's not really an issue. they could load up COD and it's 80 gigabytes. You just need an SD card. But I do think they can play around with what's loaded on there and what's not. Textures, audio. There are things that can be compressed and most likely at least shaved down to 30 to 40 gigabytes. And for COD, let's face it, that's pretty impressive. So the biggest thing is most likely if you buy a cartridge, it's going to be what they do with actually current Call of Duty games on a Blu-ray. It's 70 megabytes, then you just download the rest. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here. Today was the Capcom Spotlight with that big Resident Evil 4 remake demo dropping. Did you get a chance to try it out? And what do you think? Then also, what about the GameCube and Nintendo making their own LCD attachment that would have been glasses-free 3D in 2002. Thanks guys for watching. Have a great weekend. I'll see you back here Monday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern time for Newswave.